Hi, I'm Isidoros Parlamas. Today we're going to talk about the story of Eurytus and Aristodemus. The story of Eurytus, you say in English, but in Greek it's Eurytus and Aristodemus, is connected with the famous stand of the Spartans at the Battle of Thermopylae during the second Persian invasion of Greece under the Persian king Xerxes I. The situation. When the Greek forces realized they were about to be surrounded, the Spartan king Leonidas I dismissed most of the allied troops, but kept his Spartans and a few others to make a final stand. Among the Spartans were two men suffering from severe eye infections, Eurytus and Aristodemus. Because they were nearly blind, Leonidas ordered them to withdraw from the battlefield. Eurytus' decision. Eurytus refused to abandon the fight. According to Herodotus' History's Book 7, Eurytus asked for his armor. A helot servant led him back to the battlefield. Though almost blind, he charged the Persians and fought until he was killed. Because he knowingly returned to certain death, the Spartans later honored him as a hero. Aristodemus' choice. Aristodemus, however, did not return to the battlefield. He survived the battle. In Sparta, this was considered a grave disgrace. Spartans believed that warriors must return with a shield or on it. In other words, victorious or dead. Aristodemus was therefore treated as a coward. No one spoke to him. He was publicly shamed. Aristodemus' redemption. The following year he fought in the decisive Battle of Plataea. There he deliberately rushed into the thickest fighting and died bravely, redeeming his honor in Spartan eyes. Moral significance in Spartan culture. The story illustrates two Spartan ideals. Honor above life, Eurytus, the possibility of redemption through courage, Aristodemus. Herodotus tells the story to show the extreme Spartan code of honor, where survival itself could be shameful if it meant abandoning comrades. The subtle point in this story is this. Both men had been ordered to withdraw because they were blind, yet only Aristodemus was dishonored. Why? The explanation lies in how each man responded to the situation, according to Herodotus. Eurytus chose death. Although ordered to leave the battlefield, Eurytus refused to leave while his comrades died. Because he was nearly blind, he asked his helot servant to lead him to the fighting. Place him where the Spartans were battling. He then charged into the Persian ranks and died fighting at the Battle of Thermopylae. For the Spartans, this showed that his spirit was still aligned with the warrior code even though his body was failing. Aristodemus chose survival. Aristodemus obeyed the order to withdraw and did not return to the battle. Technically, he had done nothing wrong, but in the Spartan moral universe, this was not enough. What mattered was what the Spartan chose when confronted with the death of his comrades. To them, Aristodemus had accepted life when honor required death. His treatment in Sparta after the battle. No one would speak to him. No one would share meals with him. He was treated as a trembler, a disgraced Spartan. This shows how severe Spartan social judgment could be. His redemption. At the Battle of Plataea the next year, Aristodemus charged recklessly into the enemy and died fighting. Herodotus says he fought with extraordinary fury, clearly trying to erase his disgrace. However, the Spartans did not award him special honors because they believed he fought out of desperation rather than disciplined courage. The deeper lesson. The story reveals a key Spartan principle. Courage must be steady and disciplined. Desperation is not the same as virtue. So, Eurytus equals honored, means honored because he knowingly embraced the Spartan ideal. Aristodemus means shamed because he first avoided death and later fought recklessly. The account appears in Histories, Book 7, sections 229-231, where Herodotus describes what happened to the two Spartans who had been dismissed from the battlefield at the Battle of Thermopylae. Below is a faithful paraphrase of the passage, not a word-for-word translation, but very close to the meaning. Two of the 300 Spartans, Eurytus and Aristodemus, had been suffering from a severe eye disease and were lying at Alpini, almost blind. When they learned that the Persians had surrounded the Greeks, Eurytus asked for his armor and ordered his hallowed servant to lead him into the battle. The servant led him there, and Eurytus rushed into the fighting and was killed. Aristodemus, however, did not do the same. Had he alone been sick and returned to Sparta, the Spartans would not have blamed him. But since both men had been sick and only Eurytus chose to return and die, Aristodemus was greatly dishonored. Later, at the Battle of Plataea, Aristodemus redeemed himself. He fought with extraordinary bravery and was killed in battle. Yet the Spartans did not give him the highest honors because he fought recklessly, eager to die and erase the shame that had fallen upon him. What Herodotus is emphasizing, Herodotus highlights three psychological themes: choice. Eurytus voluntarily returned to certain death. Comparison. Aristodemus was judged because another Spartan in the same situation chose differently. Motivation. At Plataea, Aristodemus fought bravely, but from shame, not calm discipline. This short episode is one of the clearest windows into Spartan moral psychology. Honor was not only about bravery, but also about the motive behind the bravery. Herodotus, Histories 7, 229-31, Ancient Greek. Τον δε τρικοσίων Σπαρτιητέων δύο εξαρρωστείς οφθαλμών εν αλπινόηση καταληφθέντες ήσαν Ευρύτος τε και Αριστόδημος. Ούτω ιδέ πειθόμενο ετο Πέρσιν περιελήθαινε τους Έλληνας ευουλεύοντο. Ο μένδι Ευρύτος ετήσας τα όπλα και τον ήλωτα και λεύσας απάγειν εις τους μαχωμένους απάγεσθάι. Ως δε στους πολεμίους εγένετο εσέβαλε και απέθανε. Ο δε Αριστόδημος ούκ τόλμησε τούτο ποιησάι αλλά εσπάρτην απήλθε. Και ημέν μόνος Αριστόδημος ηρώστε και ούτου απήλθε εις Σπάρτην ουκ αν οι Σπαρτοί έιτάι ενεμέσισαν. Επίτε δε δύο αιώντων και του εταίρου εθελήσαντος αποθανήν, ο δε έτερος ούκ εθέλων εν μεγάλην έσχε ατιμέην. Key sentence, the core of the story. The most famous line is essentially «Επίτε δε δύο αιώντων και του εταίρου εθελήσαντος αποθανήν», since there were two of them and one chose to die. This is the moral hinge of the story. Aristodemus was condemned not because he survived, but because another man in the same situation chose death. The key words appear in Histories 7-31, where Herodotus describes Aristodemus' conduct at the Battle of Plataea. Here is the relevant Greek passage. Aristodemus δε εκ Θερμοπυλαίων σωθείς εμαΐνετο εστιν μάχην και διαφενέστατα απέθανε. Αλλούκ ετίμεσαν αυτόν, ότι βουλόμενος αποθανήν και εκπλήναει την ατιμίαν εμαΐνετο. Literal meaning, εμαΐνετο, he raged, he fought like a madman, okay? That's where the word mania comes. Διαφενέστατα απέθανε, he died very conspicuously in a most obvious display of bravery. Αλλούκ ετίμεσαν αυτόν, but they did not honor him, βουλόμενος αποθανήν, wanting to die, εκπλήνε την αντιμήν, to wash away the dishonor. Why the Spartans refused to honor him? Herodotus' reasoning is extremely subtle. The Spartans believed Aristodemus fought not out of disciplined courage, but out of shame and desperation. The key word emaineto, he raged like a madman, implies loss of control. In Spartan ethics, Sophrosini, self-control, and discipline in battle were virtues. Reckless fury, even if brave, was not considered the highest courage. Thus, Eurytus, a calm decision to return and die, honored. Aristodemus, frantic attempt to erase shame, not honored. Why Herodotus told this story? The episode illustrates the Spartan ideal that virtue lies not only in the act but in the disposition behind it. A man may die bravely and still not embody the ideal of courage if the motive is panic, shame, or rage rather than disciplined resolve. The verb ekplinai in the passage is very revealing. In the line from History 7:31, βουλόμενος αποθανήν και εκπλήναει την ατιμίαν. Literally, βουλόμενος wishing, wanting, αποθανήν to die, εκπλήναει to wash out, wash away, την ατιμίαν, the dishonor, disgrace. So the phrase means wanting to die and wash away the dishonor. The imagery behind the verb ekplino literally means to wash something out with water, rinse away a stain. The Greek often used this verb metaphorically for pollution, miasma, guilt, shame. Dishonor was therefore conceived as a stain on one's reputation. Cultural meaning. In Spartan culture, atimia, loss of honor, was almost worse than death. A disgraced Spartan could be shunned socially, avoided in conversation, excluded from common meals. Herodotus says that Aristodemus returned to Sparta with exactly this stigma. Thus, at the Battle of Plataea, he rushed into the fighting trying to wash away the stain. Why the metaphor matters? The Greek wording shows something profound about Greek ethics. Honor behaves like physical purity. Shame behaves like dirt or pollution. So Aristodemus is portrayed as someone trying to cleanse himself through death in battle. Herodotus' choice of ekplinai captures that entire moral worldview in a single verb. That was it. Very interesting. Now the question is, are there any Eurytuses today? Are there any citizens, soldiers in any army that feel like Eurytus? No, because they don't fight for their own country. They fight for money. They fight to advance strongmen's ambitions. So they probably resent fighting just to advance some madman's ambitions. I don't think there's any Eurytuses today, or Aristodemus for that matter. So another thing is disciplined courage, and another thing is panic, madness, reckless courage, in quotes. So that was it.